some of this is probably familiar for some of you guys, but I just want to do a recap on what we do as a student ministry and why we do it. This is actually, some of this content is a training that I do with our volunteers. We haven't done one since last August, but we are, reacting on the fly. So, so I want to kind of just go over some things and talk about some big changes that are coming down the pipe that are actually starting tomorrow, which is one thing. So we'll jump in. I'm going to pray for us and we'll get started, okay? Father, we just thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to gather with these guys online and to meet. I pray, Lord, that you would just bless this time. I pray that it would be useful and helpful for those that are attending this meeting to gain a deeper understanding of what we do as a student ministry and why we do it. Father, I pray that you would just have your hand on our students this year. God, it's been a crazy past 5 months. And Lord, I know that you take craziness and you make it useful. You make it beautiful in our life if we are humble and willing to let you do that. So God, I just pray that in the midst of this unsettled season, unpredictable season, God, that we would look to you, be anchored in you, Lord, and that you would help us to grow. I pray that for our students, that they would look to you for their identity, their worth, their value, and God, their direction for their life. Father, thank you so much. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So let's see. Okay, here we go. So when I think about student ministry, I started being a student pastor about 15 years ago. And my idea of student ministry then was show up at the gym, play some basketball with kids, and do a Bible lesson. And over the years, God's really cultivated a heart in me to really go deeper and be more strategic and to really infuse what it means to be a Christ follower in a way that helps kids grow closer to him and impact the world that they're living in. So we have 4 ministry environments that I really look at. So the first are events, which are often environments where students will walk into our ministry context, sometimes for the very first time. A lot of people don't realize, but Wednesday nights traditionally has been that type of event for me. It is a student ministry gathering, but it's for a lot of kids the very first time they walk on our campus. And so I'm very intentional and very evangelistic. The messages and the things I teach are not going to be deep theological, because a lot of kids are walking into church possibly maybe for the first, second time of their life. That's the first time I walked into a church was on a Wednesday night. But those events are often, we try to create those environments so that students can come into the life of the church. Most of you guys know this. Most adults who are Christians made their profession of faith when they were a teenager. I think it's something like 80% of Christians made a profession of faith when they were a teenager or a child. And so midweek is our focus on helping students take their next steps in growing in 4 key areas. If you're familiar with our church, you know these: worship, connect, serve, and share. And so what a lot of people don't know is that we actually strategically teach and plan around those 4 spiritual habits: worship, connect, serve, and share. In the fall, we focus on connection, the importance of being in a Christian community, connecting with God, connecting with others. And when we start going into the winter season around Christmas, we'll start focusing on serving, because that's a natural time where people are outward focused, thinking about other people, gifts and giving, Thanksgiving, and things of that nature. And so with serve, we really focus on the spiritual giftedness that each student has, their potential, and their call to serve others and to serve Christ. As we roll into the spring, we focus on worship. Now, worship is more than just service oriented. It is really developing that personal time with God. It's, devotionals, prayer, spiritual disciplines is what we kind of look at in the area of worship. And then in the summer, we focused on share, because for whatever reason, summer just lends itself to a lot of missions and mission opportunities. Connect groups. These are what we call any small group component. These are very important for students, and this is the most important thing that we do, because at the end of the day, our heart for discipleship we know and we believe happens in a small group context. So one of the changes we made last year and was that we actually started doing small groups on a Wednesday night. And for this past year, I can promise you that it has paid off immensely. One of the things that I love about the changes we made was that we now have leaders, volunteers that are investing in students. Uh, for the first time in my ministry career, students have walked into the gym several weeks in a row and they don't know me. I don't know them, but they know other leaders. And that could be like, wow, you're a lousy youth pastor, Nick. But for me, that is actually a win because I know that I have a limited capacity and my job is to empower and encourage others to do ministry. And so when I see that happen, I love that. Now I will say it grieves me because I hate not knowing a student, and I make it my ambition to know their name and know something about them. But connect groups are the most important things that we do as a student ministry. Retreats and mission trips are essential for us to encourage spiritual growth. I was heartbroken that we didn't get to go to Panama City this year. I don't know if everybody knows this, but we had 100 people signed up to go to Panama City. I had 2 charter buses rented, and I was pretty like pumped. And when COVID-19 hit, I was like, no, this is the devil. So retreats and missions are very vital for us because um, going on a retreat for a student is sometimes the very first time that they really get connected with other students and other leaders. Um, it's hard to connect in a church environment where you just walk in, sit down, listen, and then leave. You don't really foster any connection. That's why small groups are really important. But even in small groups, for a new student or a student that's kind of disconnected, it's hard for them to take that step to really get connected. They might know each other's names and know where they go to school, but what we're looking for is real community, real relationships. And I've seen that for 15 years solid. That happens on retreats, on mission trips, and things of that nature. So I believe that is crucial for the spiritual growth and maturity of students. That's why I harass you as a parent. Is your kid going on this trip? It's not because I want to fluff up my numbers and make sure. It's because I know it's so vital for them to get on the bus. I have a motto that I tell myself: whatever I got to do to get you on the bus, I'm going to do it because I believe that it's that important. All right, so one of the things that we realize is that every student needs a person, someone to unconditionally love them and care for them. This is what is required for discipleship to happen in the life of a student. I also understand too that a person's capacity, relational capacity, is what I've figured out for me is about 20 people. Now but I'm a youth pastor, right? So just a normal adult volunteer, it's probably more like 5 people. Some people have a deeper or more relational capacity in that way. But when you look at Jesus's model, I always point out like he had 12, and in that 12, he had 3 that were in the inner circle. They were on the Mount Transfiguration. And then he had 1 that he poured a lot into, the beloved John. So it's so important that students know that they have a person that loves them, that cares for them, that knows their name when they walk through the door, that's calling them or texting them when they don't walk through the door. That is so vital for our student ministry in that way. And they need a place. They need somewhere to belong, somewhere that they're free of judgment and criticism, somewhere that they can explore what does it mean to really be a Christian. I believe that it's a place where they can make mistakes, where they can be honest about their struggles, and so that as a Christian community, we can rally around them and help them continue to take steps closer to the Lord. So they need a person, they need a place. So everything we do is really focused on making sure kids are getting connected to a person and a place. And ultimately, we know that the person they truly need to be connected to is Jesus. But sometimes God uses you, a person, to get someone connected so that they can grow deeper and get more connected with Christ. That was true for me in my life. I got somebody else joining, sorry. Welcome. All right, so here's our mission as a student ministry. This should be no surprise to you, but we claim the Great Commission as our mission, our purpose, and it says, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age." And Jesus gave this to his disciples. He gave it to the church, and I grew up in a community who kind of looked at the youth as the church that was growing to be the church, like kids that were going to grow up and be the church. I strongly believe that the youth are the church now. If they have a relationship with Jesus, they have a responsibility. They need to be nurtured, cared for, fostered, and equipped to do the work that Christ has called them to do. And so one of the things that I long to see is when our students start making disciples themselves. And I know that does happen, but I'd like to see that happen on a greater level. All right, so our mission statement is for our student ministry. Our mission as a student ministry is to see students come to Jesus through saving faith and to live their lives for his kingdom, which is making disciples. It is our purpose to fulfill the Great Commission by equipping students, teaching them to do the work God called them to do. So I'm very big on helping kids find a place to serve, to grow, to lead. Some people believe that leaders are born. I personally believe that's a lie. I think that leaders are developed, that good leadership is not, can be a gift, but that doesn't mean that everybody can't lead. One of the things I tell the students is leadership, or the place of being a leader, is closely connected to influence. And so if you are able to influence people, then you are able to lead. And you can influence people in a bad way, or you can influence them in a good way. And so my heart is to get kids, teenagers, to influence their friends and their families to follow Christ. And from my viewpoint, that's being a leader in the church, being a leader as a Christian. Core values. These are across the board for our church: Christ likeness, relationships, trust, teamwork, and excellence. And so we really hold our volunteers to these things. We want our volunteers to be Christ-like in their attitude and their lifestyle. We need them to be relational. We need to be able to trust them. We work as a team, and we strive for excellence in the things that we do. So discipleship. This is a tricky thing. I think when you talk to any pastor, student pastor, senior pastor, whatever, their heartbeat should be make disciples, because that is the heartbeat of Christ. But here's the thing, is a lot of people look at discipleship as a program or as an approach, and they try to measure how effective they are. The hard thing about this true discipleship is that it is spiritual growth that you're desiring to see. And it's hard to measure spiritual growth because it's spiritual. Sometimes people are growing and you don't see those fruits because you're planting seeds, and those seeds are blossoming, and you may not see it like you desire to see it. So one of the things I remind parents is your child, don't always measure your child's spiritual growth based upon their outward appearance. They're teenagers, they're hormonal, they're going through seasons, they're going through all these different changes, friend groups, change of schools. It's really confusing for them, right? And your kids probably are having a hard time, but I tell every parent, every kid's having a hard time. Every middle schooler is on the brink of a mental breakdown. Like, it's just really, really hard in some regards. So spiritual growth is hard to measure. So what we do is we focus on these 4 things, which I talked about just a minute ago: worship, connect, serve, and share. We can't per se measure someone's spiritual growth, because God knows someone's heart and God knows where they are and how they're growing. But what we can look for are these markers. Are they spending time with God? Are they connecting with God in authentic worship? Now, you can show up to a worship center and not be worshiping, okay? And I tell kids this: you can come to youth group and not be worshiping. But if you're spending time with God, if you're opening God's word and you're praying and you're having alone time with God, then it's very likely that you're worshiping. And so that's what we're looking for in students. We want to see them and we want to push them. We want to encourage them to spend time with God. Connection. Are they connecting with other believers? Um, People can grow spiritually um, by themselves because Christ is divine, but it's very, very hard and it's very unlikely. I tell students, I tell leaders that if you really want to grow, then you really need to get connected because God gave the church the responsibility and the tools to help each other grow closer to Him and to grow spiritually in that way. I just saw I had two chats. I didn't realize that. Okay, we good. Uh, so serving is I think one of the areas that we're weak in, and Alan has really encouraged me to get more kids plugged in, and I feel like my priority is I want to see them spending time with God. I want to make sure they're getting connected in the community, in the Christian community, and then I want to focus on them getting involved in serving. I've seen over my years in student ministry kids who get pulled into serving roles, and they become really good at helping with the kids or whatnot, but they kind of miss out on the opportunity to connect with other people their age, other Christians. They start missing out opportunities to be in collective worship with other believers. And so I'm real hesitant, not hesitant, that's a bad word. I'm real cautious about just throwing kids into roles to serve in the church because I don't want them to get lost in those roles. I want them to be solid and founded in their faith. The last is share their story. Is really what we desire to see in students is them to open up and start having conversations about God and about Jesus with people outside of the church. And that could be their friend groups, which is obviously one of the first places they should start. But just to see that, when I hear a student come back to me and says, "Hey, I've been praying for my friend and having a conversation with them about Jesus," to me that is a huge win because they're sharing. It doesn't necessarily mean they're on the street corner evangelizing, but they're sharing. Um, all right, so worship is spending time with God. We talked about that. Connection is spending time with others. Serve is using your gifts, and share is sharing their story, having God conversations. All right, so this is important. A lot of parents are like, how in the heck do I keep up with what's going on? I don't know if you guys noticed this. I never, ever, hardly ever make an announcement from the stage about student ministry. That's not because I don't care about student ministry. It's because I feel like I have a strategic way to communicate. And yes, Kevin, the phone. And if you are really annoyed by my text messages, please, I pray that you would just build a tolerance for that because my heart, Kevin, I like Kevin's honesty. My heart is to keep you in the loop. I don't think people realize I have 280 people in that text group. Okay, so I know, Kevin, a lot of times you know what's going on, but I don't know if old Bobby over here really is getting the messages, right? And so now the size of these blocks here indicate how important the information is. When I'm doing something that is extremely important and extremely detailed, for instance, sign up for spring break, what I'm going to do is I typically will build an email, and that email will have all the details, all the things that you need in it to understand what spring break is about, when the date is, how to sign up for it, how much does it cost, all those details. And then I'll text out reminders that could be to sign up for something, to join a Zoom meeting. And Instagram is really aimed towards students. And I'm becoming aware that more and more students are leaving Instagram. And I think it's because you guys are getting on there. When adults start taking up and getting on social media outlets, students start leaving. I don't know why that happens, but somebody was like, "Hey, we should do a youth Facebook group." I was like, "Where you been? Ain't no youth on Facebook." That's just their mom and dad's on there. Uh, but I feel confident that I have a little bit more time left on Instagram. I personally don't like Snapchat, and I think we're in uh, a gray zone to know what's the next major social platform. I don't. It could be TikTok, which is not even good for communicating anything. It's just wasting your time. So this is how we communicate. So what I'll tell you guys is, if you are on Instagram, go follow me at Nick Smith Go. We have a East Pickens student page as well. It's at EPBC students. But the most important thing I tell people is, like, make sure you're in the text group. If you're in the text group, you're going to get everything you need. Even when I send the email, I typically will copy the link from the email and send it through the text group, just because I know a lot of people are like my wife, who never checks her email. Some people are like that. They'll give me an email, but they never check it. So that's our communication strategy. So to know what's going on in student ministry, make sure you are tapped into this, because you're not going to see a lot of information in the bulletin or the worship folder, and you're not going to see a lot of things being said from stage, but I promise you there's a lot of things going on behind closed doors, and we're pumping out information for you guys to stay in the loop in that way. Very important. So a couple things here. These are some things we go over with our volunteers, and I wanted to just share with you guys just some safety guidelines and code of conduct. We tell our volunteers to never be alone with a student of the opposite gender. That is not because we don't trust our volunteers. I trust every person that is on our volunteer team. They are great people. They've had background checks. We've had youth trainings and things like that. I have no suspicions, but it's just as a precaution. It's something that I try to practice myself. Is if you have a daughter and she needs a ride somewhere, I'm not going to give her a ride, probably. I can only think of 2 occasions that I did that. Why I've been at East Pickens for the past 8 years, and I regretted it afterwards. Not because anything happened, just because I was like, man, I kind of broke one of my own rules. Even though the parent asked me to do it, I felt like I was still putting myself in a situation that I wouldn't want to put other leaders in. Maintain physical boundaries. This is, appropriate high fives, appropriate kind of hugs, but it has to be appropriate. And so that's been a very important emphasis that we put on. If some of our leaders are texting with students, and I'll always tell them to please to log their conversation. So don't delete messages. We use the Remind app. If you guys, those messages I send out, if you reply back, they do come to my phone, and just like a text message. And so that is, if a leader uses Remind, which a lot of our leaders do, those kids can reply back through Remind, and that will actually, I can log on the computer and I see a whole track record of everybody's conversations. Not that I'm stalking people, but it is just a helpful way to be able to communicate in a safe way in that way. So those are some things, and a couple other is when it comes to kids, we want our students to feel safe. We want them to feel like they have a safe place to talk about things and share things. But we also realize that there's some things that we have to speak up about. And this is where we are all mandated reporters. If the kid tells me I'm thinking about hurting myself, or they're showing signs of, hurting themselves, or they have been abused in any way, or they're thinking about hurting someone else, all confidentiality is out of the window, and I have to cross that line and contact the parents. And in some cases, I've had to reach out and get other authorities involved. So we tell all our leaders, if a kid comes to you and says, hey, I'm struggling with cussing, like, okay, you can keep that confident, because it's not putting anybody in danger. And I know as a parent, you're like, well, I want you to tell me that. But we also want the kids to tell us that, so so that we can help them navigate through those things in their life in that way. So if your child or your student is in being hurt or harmed or neglected or abused in any way, we will contact you. We will break that confidentiality. If they're hurting themselves or abusing someone else, we will do that. Or if they're at risk of harming themselves. There's been some times where I've felt like, as I've talked to a student, I was like, I need to talk to their parent. And I tell them, I'm like, hey, I need to talk to your parent, and I need to share this with them because I think it's important. And I'm sorry that if you feel like I'm breaking your confidentiality, but I have to speak up. And so those are just some of the safety guidelines and things of that nature. So what I want to do is that is who we are as a student ministry in a nutshell. And I just want to just for a second unmute you guys and let anybody, if you have any questions about anything that I just shared. So I just unmuted everybody. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I covered? Or silent.
I think you're doing a good job with the communication. I like Remind. I've been known to scroll back through that to find out stuff you sent 2 weeks ago because I forgot what it was and somebody asked me about it, and I know that it's there.
Thank you, Ryan. Take that, Kevin.
As far as Instagram, leave that for the kids. I don't care for social media.
I think the communication works. It's just I get it on my iPad, my phone, my computer, emails at school, text messages. He sends one thing out and it hits me 15 times.
Well, that's your fault, Kevin, not
And
mine.
you still miss half of what he's saying.
I don't miss it, so it's okay.
Okay.
I got my information.
You got it. You got it. Does anybody else have any questions about student ministry or why we do what we do? Was there anything that wasn't clear or maybe anything like that? Okay. Well, for just the next few minutes, I want to kind of just give you guys some details of what's coming down the pipe. And I don't know who Connect Group 11 is, but everybody else, I think you're probably somewhat, oh, it's Bridget. Hey, Bridget. Okay. Everybody else, I think you're somewhat aware of what we're doing and things like that. So, so tomorrow, Wednesday, we are actually launching student home groups, which I'm really excited about that. And the reason I'm excited about that is because I believe it really helps us foster that connect group atmosphere, which is really enabling us or giving us the ability to make disciples. I believe that kids need to be in relationships in places where they're being nurtured, where they can have the freedom to talk and discuss. And so one of the things I've kind of envisioned for home groups is like, it's not like a service. Okay. We're not funneling people in and funneling back out the door, but we're actually just organically trying to do some discipleship and create Christian community where we learn each other. So I would just encourage you, if you're part of one of those student home groups, like it's fine. Tell stories, laugh together. If you don't get through all the small group discussion questions, it's okay. Like I promise. And I tell people this, Sunday school teachers, I said, listen, every time you get a new wave of kids into your room, just let them talk. Even if they're talking about dumb stuff or stuff that's off the wall, just let them talk, because what you're doing is you're creating a culture where it's okay to talk. It's okay to goof off and cut up. And that will actually spill over into when the time comes for something to be serious or to be deep or in depth, they will open up and talk because there's a trust there. I think when you shut kids down immediately, say, hey, no, this is not the place or the time. We can't talk about that. Or, quit goofing off, or that's a dumb question or whatever. You actually are kind of shutting down the potential of your group really going deeper. And so I say, it's okay to be shallow for a season. All right. Don't stay there forever, but you got to get in the shallows and learn how to doggy paddle before you can go swim in the deep water. And so even in the context of a small group, I think that is extremely important. tell stories, let the kids share, even if it goes off on a tangent, that's okay. Just bring it back gently, positive reinforcement. That's what our desire is. And we're hoping that through doing that several times over the course of, a season, that we'll see kids really fostering deeper relationships with each other and with volunteers and leaders in our student ministry. The other side to that is the coronavirus. We have no idea what things are going to look like, several months from now. I think we all would hope that they go back to normal. I'm beginning to feel like that's not going to happen. So, with that being said, I feel like home groups really provides us a way to meet ongoing, even if schools shut down or closed down for a season, that we're able to still meet in smaller groups. Um, it's hard to visualize 60 kids, 60 people, 70 people walking through the door of the gym and trying to do student ministry in that format when they're not allowed to go to school because the coronavirus is, kind of amped up in our community. But it's not real hard to think about 10 people getting together. And so that's really the heartbeat, is just creating a predictable, safe, and environment where they can continue to grow spiritually. I have hated this past season. Online youth ministry doesn't work. That's just my personal opinion. It just doesn't work. It's so hard to do that because youth ministry is highly relational, and it's hard to be relational on a video. So we're really excited about that. So that's going to be the second and fourth week of the month, and we have several groups that are meeting, and so we're really excited about that. Now, kind of moving forward, as of this moment, I am anticipating a spring break trip. Some of you guys, some of the students have paid, and not a lot of people got refunds, and so that money is still sitting there. And I think it would, if at all possible, we are looking at that, entertaining that, and hopefully are going to be able to do that. So we're excited about that. And then this summer, I'm really looking at doing probably a camp this summer. I have never done a camp during the summer, but I've been looking at some huge camps, which are actually mission camps, where it will be mission oriented, but also be discipleship. I love going to Cincinnati. I love taking a team of people up there, but I really feel like our kids need to be invested in a deeper relational and discipleship kind of structure way. So I'm looking at some of that for this summer, and we are going to try to encourage these small groups, whether it's just small groups where volunteers are leading, to think out of the box and get together outside of the church. Like go take a hike together, do some things like that. So I'm really going to be encouraging that. So it's going to be our student ministry this year is going to be more organic. And one of the things that I feel like, as I've prayed about this, the Lord put in my heart, is to not think quantity, but to think quality. And so our desire is to create richer quality experiences for students that lead them to grow relationally with leaders and other kids, and obviously with Jesus. And so we may not do as many things. I would love to. I just think our hands are tied a little bit in that way. But we're going to try to take those opportunities that we do have and to go deeper and just to be more hands-on with that. And honestly, what I've told people is I feel like this is like old school youth ministry. It's not about the hype. It's not about the energy. It's really just about the relationships and really focusing on it from that viewpoint. Another thing that this doesn't pertain to everybody, but I'm really excited about this, is if I'm overseeing the young adult ministry, which is the college age students, and we've had some really great participation so far over the past month with that, and blew my mind. Bridget, she's Connect Group 11. Bridget and I are trying to pull some things together and create a strong ministry for those groups. If you have a student in 12th grade, we're actually going to be inviting them, or they are invited to attend whatever we're doing with young adults. And so we're going to try to graft those kids in a little earlier, which actually has been an old tradition that we did. So we're going to try that this year and have some things set up for them as well in that way. So overall, I think we're going to have a great year. I think God is really going to do some really cool things through these new adventures in ministry. Will they be perfect? Absolutely not. But I feel like will be good. I think we'll see some fruit come out of this. And I think the hard thing for me, if I'm just being transparent with the student home groups, is figuring out how to get kids who are somewhat connected or disconnected plugged into a home group. And here's part of what I'm going to do. The first and third week of the month, we're going to meet on campus as normal student ministry. During those weeks, I'm going to really say, hey, guys, if you are not in a home group, I need you to go see Grace Watson, and she's going to help you get plugged into a home group. And we're going to try to funnel kids to locations. With that being said, we're going to need some extra locations down the road if that works. So we have 5 groups meeting on an average 10 to 15 people. So that gives you right there, 50, 60, 70 spots in that way. So that's our big for the rest of the year for 2020. We're locked and loaded in that path. And I wish I could paint a picture of what next fall is going to look like, but I'm just to be honest, I have no idea. I have no idea. So do you guys have any questions in regard to student ministry this year and how it's going to continue to unroll? Nope. All right. Well, listen, guys, I don't want to keep you any longer, but I did want to give everybody an update and kind of just help you hear from my heart of where we are as a student ministry, where we're going, and why we do what we do. Thank you so much for joining me today. I was scared to death that nobody was going to show up. I was going to sit here and have to stare at one person. I'm the opposite of, like I'm an extrovert, so it terrifies me to talk one-on-one. I'm fine talking to 100 people, but just one-on-one, like it scares me to death. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much. Well, listen, if you guys think of any questions or you have any concerns or any ideas or just anything you want to share and you didn't want to share it on here, you got my contact information. Reach out to me and let me know. I appreciate y'all so much. For those of you helping student ministry, thank y'all. I couldn't do this without you. And I'm just looking forward to see what the Lord's going to do this year. See you guys. Thanks for coming.